Hey everyone, it is Wayne Johnson, and really excited to bring you this audio of our friend Jamie Winship. And this is pulled from the archives. It's been so popular though, and I want to give the proper credit and rights to Jamie for having come and done this event for us in 2018. It was an event a men's event we did every year called Freedom Bowl, event about men and really taking freedom in their lives in all areas, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, relationships. And so we would always bring in speakers. We would always speak to a group of men at this event. For instance, we had about 200 guys come in December. And, it was just always something that we did in our business and continue to do to just pour into men's lives. We know so many times in a man's lives, we're focused on, making money and keeping, family going. And we get so full that we forget to take care of our life really has many aspects, and we can get out of balance. And so there's always been a model we've shown people is a wheel, and these different spokes are these different areas of your life: spiritual, financial, relational, mental, physical. And if any of those start to get deflated, it's like boom, every time that wheel spins around, you hit a bump. And we don't want that. We want men to walk in victory. We want men to be complete. And some of us have, we're more talented or we have more experience in other areas. And that's why being in community with other men to help keep things inflated, even if you're, spiritually aren't the strongest. There's other guys that have strong spiritual strength and you can be around them, or financially you're learning things and you're wanting to level up in that area, or physically, like, taking care of your body and eating right and, doing activity. Those aren't things that so you want to be in community and you want to have people around you that can do that. So this event, I just wanted to share. It's just the audio, but it's really walking through, and Jamie tells the most amazing story. You're going to love it, talking about just breaking through, understanding your true identity, understanding where fear comes from, how, like, the high performers, Navy SEALs, for instance, the best of the SEALs, how do they perform? The best of the best, how do they perform and how do they think? There's so much meat in this. And so I know you're going to get tremendous value from it. Also, if you want more, you can go to their site. It's identityexchange.com. They also have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to, Identity. They're always putting out great content. They have coaching, they have resources. I just had this audio, and after many years, I've sent it to so many people and it's impacted, and then they obviously connect. And I was like, I got to get this up on my YouTube channel because this is too powerful to not share this story and share the teaching that he breaks down. It's probably one of the greatest stories I think has ever been told to teach and really impact a man's heart. So get ready, enjoy it, and give us comments below. Reach out to the Winships at Identity Exchange, and level up in this area. You will not be the same once you know your true identity, once you know how to operate, identify fear, and how to overcome that fear with creativity and just walking it out. So here we go. Enjoy.
Police officer who cried and talked about doing a cleanse. So I know when I say that to her, she's going to be like, "Oh, I have a lot of questions about that." There's something, part of the initiation is vasectomy. I don't know. It was a traumatic night. I don't feel like a champion yet. I'm partway there because I have had a vasectomy. Okay, but it's an honor to be here, and it's always great. I love hearing narrative, because that is what everything's about. It's about story and about your life, and what our lives only change through experience, right? It never changes through abstract truth and discussion out here, which is how most of us live, unfortunately. We just talk about stuff. We don't actually do it. And that's what's funny about that is I'm looking at this word champion, and because my wife is Jewish and I did some work with the Mossad a while back. And this word champion in Hebrew is giborim. Im is the plural. Giborim is plural. Just like the word Bedu is the name of a desert Arab, and een is the plural, Bedouin, or Bedouin as we say it. But this word, Giborim, it actually means something that holds something up. It's a champion that can hold something up or stand against. That's what it means. And what's fascinating in Hebrew history, that term, the etymology of that term is, so if you're an Israeli soldier and you go through your training and you're an officer, you get sworn in on Masada. If you know what Masada is, that's where the Jews did their last stand against Rome and they all committed suicide. That's the story. It's not exactly what happened, but that's the TV version of what happened there. But the officers are sworn in on Masada. That's where you are sworn in to remember that you will stand against or champion the country even unto death. And so they're called Giborim. And so the reason they do it on Masada is because in Hebrew history, King David, before he was an actual king, he was an insurgent. So I don't know if you know Hebrew history, but so he was proclaimed king, but he wasn't king yet. There was a current king. And so he was waiting. He had this picture in his mind of what he was to become. He had a vision for the future based on the influence of an older person in his life that proclaimed him that. It's really beautiful. Like, you are the next king and we anoint you as king, but not for 15 years. And so he had to hold on to that and so what he did was, so he starts acting like a king, even though he's not. But he is, but he's not. And so it's the potential and the actual. The potential and the actual are always in conflict, always in your life. The potential is pushing against the actual, and the actual is pushing against the potential. And they should always be in conflict. That is such a beautiful conflict to have. Because if you only go with the actual, you're never going to do anything. And if you're only living the potential, you're never going to do anything. But with those two pushing back and forth against each other, it's a really beautiful idea. So there's this idea in Hebraic thinking of this. And so what David did was, to protect his family, because he's smart, he went to this particular cave that you can go to in Israel. And his idea was just to hide his family in this cave, which became his sort of place of meditation. But when he took his family there were 400 people waiting there for him. And here's the description of the people. The people, this is their identity as a people. They're in debt, they're depressed, and they're despondent. They don't even have individual identities, just as a group. That's their identity, which is the identity of whole countries. They're in debt, they're despondent, and they're depressed. So in the Hebrew, it's an alliteration. And so they're there. David is 18 when he gets there, and there they are. And he's like, why are you here? Well, you seem to know what you're doing. I'm just protecting them. And so they're there. By the time David is 23, so 18 to 23, by the time he's 23, those people are 600 just men, and they're no longer depressed and in debt and despondent. They're named individually in their own fighting identity. And so instead of, hi, I'm in debt and I'm despondent and I'm depressed and I'm glad to be here, not that person would stand up and say, because they've been in the mentorship of a person who knew their identity. They had never seen a person that knew their own identity. So all they knew was how to be in debt, despondent, and depressed, because that's who everyone they worked with that's what they were. Right? And you can't do what you've never seen. Right. No human can do something they've never seen. And so now they got this 18-year-old who's they're with him till he's 23. And by the time that he's 23, then this person stands up and says, my name is Abishai, and I fight the lion men of Moab, and I prevail. That's his identity. So not only do we know what family he came from, not only do we know that he can fight, we know where he fights, and he never loses in that particular fight. And David has 600 of those identities. Do you understand? They're not a crowd anymore. They're not a group. They're individual identities that each know what they do, and they each know where they fight. Those 600 men are the best fighting force in the world at their time. And they're all former criminals. That's what they are. That is called identity transformation. When the Israelis are sworn in up on Masada, they're tapping into that idea of identity. Not just, we're this country, we're this team. I am this Giborim, this champion, but not just a champion. I'm this particular champion that fights this particular battle. And in this battle, I never lose. And in all these battles, I probably will, but not this one. So it tells you where to go. It tells you what to do. You don't have to, like, what do I do? What do you do? I fight the lion men of Moab. Well, they're right there. How long do you want to meditate on this? See, if you have an identity, then they have a destiny. You have an identity, you have a destiny. So, that's what that word is, Giborim. You can be in debt and despondent and depressed, or you can be a Giborim. Upright in your true identity, and you know where you fight. And when you fight there, you always win. And when you have a community that all know that about each other, that community is almost invincible in anything that they do. Any kind of struggle, any kind of battle. So in 2007, I'm going to just condense this for you. And if you leave, if this doesn't satisfy you, good. I just want to trigger you, we call it. So in 2007, I was working for, not the Israelis, I was working for an Arab government. And I was in this Arab country working for this particular government and in conjunction with the U.S. And my job was to locate certain individuals who ran a terrorist organization and kind of put them out of commission without the use of force. I can tell you how I do that sometime, so in order to do that, you have to have an identity that makes sense where you're working, but you can only do something like that if you have an identity that's much deeper. And you'll see why. Here's why. So I figure out, okay, the guys I'm looking for are super smart. We know who they are, but I've got to get them to take me inside their group, right? So obviously, I'm not going to blend in with the Arabs, you know? So I can't trick them. Yes, I'm an Arab. No, I don't think so. Yeah, we're from the Irish branch. So I'm in that living in this city. We've been in this particular area for about a year at that point. Because by 2007, we were quite good at doing this. It took a lot of practice to do it. But so I realized that two of the leaders are academics. They're really smart people. And so I'm gonna offer a class through the government that I know they want. So I've got to become an expert in that topic first. Then I've got to get the Muslim government to hire me to teach that topic in a place where these guys will come. Where they'll come trusting, right? So that takes a little bit of effort and work to do that. But so I got into that position, got put into that place, right? So I'm teaching this class. I'm in the second night, and both of them walk in. Both guys, they walk in into the class, and they start to participate in the subject that I'm teaching. And because I'm an American, they're super disruptive in the class. They make a lot of comments insulting to the U.S. and, they'll say something like, we know you're a Jew lover. The funny thing is my wife is Jewish. And so I would go, how do you know that? That's so true. How do you know that? They were trying to insult me. And I was like, hey. But anyway, so they would do that. Anyway, keep going, teaching the class. So one night, the class is dismissed. I'm in the building. It's late at night. I'm working on something else. I come out to the street in this city. I'm standing on the corner. I'm going to flag a taxi to go home. And these two guys, four of them, the two I know in the front, two in the back, they pull up to the curb and they all get out and get around me. And so I'm like, oh, Good. I've made contact. And technically, I'm inside their group right now. And so the lead guy says to me, "We want to give you a ride home. Get in our car. We'll give you a ride home." Well, there's a lot wrong with this invitation, right? Yeah. So now I want you to think with me. Like, I want you to, because what happened in that situation, any one of you in this room can do. Right? You can do it. Here's why you won't do it. Because you're afraid. That's why. That's why. Okay? But what you're afraid of isn't them. You're afraid of something much deeper in yourself. And that fear needs to go away forever. And it can. It doesn't take long. So stay with me in this scenario. You'll see what I mean. So they say, let's get in the car. Well, I've been trained. I started in the police department on the East Coast. My mother was Chuck Colson's personal assistant before he started Prison Fellowship. So I went to the police department, all that stuff. I'll come back to that in a second. And so in all of my training, then I worked for the U.S. government, and I was trained by them. Here's what you learn not to do: never, never, never get in a car with 4 guys in a Muslim extremist country. Like, that's one of the bans. Like, really? Why? So that's the rule. Now, so here's 4 guys inviting me into their car. We would like to give you a ride home, the lead guy says. They're really nice. I mean, they're very friendly. So is Satan, it's the kind of thing. So training kicks in. Well, the part of your brain that training is this part right here. It's the reptilian brain, right? The reptilian brain serves to protect or promote. That's all. It can fight or run or just stand there paralyzed. But that's all it can do. Fight, run, or just freeze. So that's the very first part of your brain that reacts. Now, if you can't get out of that part of your brain, you will never come up with a new idea in a crisis situation, ever. Any police officer can tell you this. If you're policing in fear, which a lot of us do, you're not afraid of the situation, but afraid I'm going to get in trouble, afraid someone's going to complain on me, you can't create anything. Nobody in fear can create a new idea. And here's the other thing they can't do. You can't receive new information either. Your brain shuts down into training mode. So crisis doesn't make a man, it reveals a man. That's all it does. So like they were saying about the period and the comma, when you get into the crisis, whatever you've trained to, that's what's going to happen. Unless you can overcome the fear in the moment, right? Then you can keep your brain operating in the midbrain, which is the cognitive creative center of new ideas. And this part of the brain that's the most creative is completely non-violent. Okay? So the goal is, how do I stay in that part of my brain? So I'm in this scenario. They're like, get in the car. Okay, here's how strong the reptilian brain is. This is 2007. In 2004, I was working in Baghdad with a team. I was the team lead. I had a 2-part team. Because of who I worked for, we don't work with the military. We're not military. We're State Department. We work very separate from the Defense Department. So our teams are very well trained in what we do, but we do not use violence. But we're in a different sphere. And so my team in 2004 in Baghdad, we had a senior team, which were guys that we brought in from other countries that were pretty well trained. And then a new team that I was training that we hired right out of different universities. And so they were the new team in. They were all 23 years old, the new part of our team, men and women. And then the senior part of our team they had from 15 to 4 years experience in the Middle East, men and women both, on both teams. And so my senior team, the senior part of our team, which was going to train the younger part, this senior team, were all killed in one day. They go out on a Tuesday, all killed. Whole team, 1 survivor, woman shot 31 times. She is a survivor. Okay, so when I'm standing on this street corner, that's one of my first memories. That right there. Because your brain, what it'll bring forward is the past. That's what it'll do. Okay, your brain will immediately look at the situation and go, okay, we've seen this before, not the same thing, but similar. And here's the message we're sending to the rest of you. You're going to die in this situation. And your whole person shuts down. Right? Whether you're in a boardroom, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, your brain goes, we did this when we were 11. We failed. You're not smart. Someone just set it up here. You're going to die here. It doesn't matter that you're 40 and work at Amazon now. You're going to act like a 7-year-old and you're going to quit. That's how your brain operates. It's the way it goes. Unless you can overcome that. Unless you can turn that off and switch on, let's think of this in a new way. Like that. Can you do that? Yes, you can. Who in this room can do it? Any of you can do it. Victims can't do it. Ever. Never. But Jibarim can. Anytime. But you got to work to it. It's not magic. You got to train into it. It's like you're training into creativity. So I have to, I know how my mind works cognitively. So when they get around me, I can think of 1,000 situations I was in as a cop where I got surrounded. In my life, I grew up in low-income housing in D.C. where I got surrounded, and none of it was people to welcome me anywhere, ever. It was always bad. Even in my mom's Independent Baptist Church, when they got around me, it was a horrible experience. Maybe the most traumatic of all of them. So everything about my subconscious mind is relating information into the present tense going, you're going to die here unless you fight and get out of this situation. However, if I do that, let's say I fight. Now, I know what to do when 4 people are around me. We're really well trained in that kind of stuff. And I know how to run. I've been trained in that since I was a little kid. So I can do both of those. The problem is, how do I win in the situation that I do professionally? By doing that. So my whole question is, if I can stay present tense enough, is, okay, I've got to think of a new way to handle this situation that's not been done before in my life. And so I have to be able to appeal to a higher way of thinking about this than just training, right? And quitting. So you can learn how to do this. So I have to shut down the memory of 2004 because I had to go ID my team's bodies. Me and an FBI agent had to go do it. And talk to the one shot 31 times, who's an amazing woman. She's, her joke is, she goes, I look better now, don't I? And I'm like, well, yeah, she looks incredible. Like, she was the survivor. So that's all going through my brain. Vivid detail. Those were my friends. That's what happened. But if I live in that memory, I die in that memory. Right? You got to stay in the present tense. Okay, so here's the characteristics of a successful special ops person. This is a 3-year research project done by Warwick University in the UK and 2 other universities together. 4 qualities of a good Navy SEAL. Not just one who made it through the training, one who made it through the training and is really good at what they do, because that's different, right? Here's our 4 qualities. Number 1, they only operate in the present tense. Now imagine if tomorrow, from now on, you only operated in the present tense. Do you know how much better you'd be at everything you do?
Wow. Yeah.
Right? Because you're not, I did this before. Or you go into the future like, that's going to ruin me in the future. As soon as you go into the future or the past, you have to self-protect. As soon as you start self-protecting, your creativity is gone. It's gone. So they operate in the present tense. Quality number 2. This is funny, like a Navy SEAL. Like, what makes a good Navy SEAL? I killed 500 people. That kind of nonsense is not true. What makes a good Navy SEAL? I operate in the present tense. And quality number 2, I'm open-minded. Like, that's almost discouraging to hear a Navy SEAL that. I'm open-minded. Oh, you'd be a perfect Navy SEAL then. And what that means is they can adjust all the time. They don't have one way of doing something and they can't change, right? They're open-minded. Quality number 3. They pay attention to discriminatory detail all the time. Okay, discriminatory detail means they can tell this is unimportant, this is important, got to pay attention to this detail. Most people are not paying attention, really, to anything. You're just drifting through, reacting to stuff. You're not paying attention, you're definitely not in the present tense, and you're not open-minded. Like, I know how this is going to turn out. Like, that's how we are. This ain't going to work. I mean, if you ask the cops on my squad, are we going to stop crime? No. We're just standing on the sewer lid of society. Like, wow, that's a good career. Trying to keep the bad guys in the sewer. That's not present tense. It's not open-minded. Do you understand that? It's just like, who told you guys that? Like, just so you know, when you join us, we're not going to win. Okay, thanks. I'm glad we're on the team. We're not going to win. Everyone's against us. Open-minded, present tense, paying attention to discriminatory detail. Number 4, always aware of emergent realities and new paradigms. In other words, they don't have a paradigm that they will not come out of. Do you know how much we live in a single paradigm of the way we see everything? And we won't change. And unfortunately, the more religious a person is, the harder the paradigm is to change. Right? Okay, so, yeah, hold on. Either that guy had an experience or he's asking a question, but just hold on a second. Okay, so aware of emerging realities and paradigms. Okay. That was an independent Baptist church. If you raise your hand, you better be asking a question. That's they're not getting emotional back there. You know, and then here's the last quality that surprised the researchers. The potential of failure energized them. Wow. Like when they knew that they weren't going to make it through the exercise, they were more excited about the exercise. Do you know why? Because they're open-minded, looking for new paradigms and ideas of reality. And failure forced them into it. So when they saw potential failure, they ran to it. Now, finally, last point of this is the Navy SEAL training didn't teach them any of that stuff. All it did was showed its presence. Right. So the question is, where did these people learn these things? They didn't learn it from Navy SEAL training. They had it when they came. Now, I don't know if you know about Navy SEAL training, but you take 900 candidates, and if 25 make it, you're in a good, you've done a great job. That's the dropout rate. So, can we live a life like that? Can we do that? Yes, we can. How quickly can we learn how to do that? Pretty quickly. Pretty quickly, and then you just start practicing it at higher and higher levels. Okay? So, standing in this situation, the guy says to me, get in the car. We want you to get in the car. Or, in the vernacular, get into your coffin. That's how we used to say it. We brought your coffin, get into it. So I'm thinking, my job, my highest vocational aspiration is to break this ring. Like that professionally, like that's the top of the heap. If you could, without use of force, like this would like put me, at a level in the Pentagon and everywhere else is like, wow. So I want that to happen. I have a goal. I want to get these guys. I want to do it. I want to accomplish what my job vocationally. That's my goal. I know that if I work to get myself out of the situation, that will not be done. However, I also know that if I get in the car, there's a very real possibility that they will kill me, right? So here's my options. This is either really going to be a really, really big win, or I'm done forever. Now, how do I decide? How do I decide? How do I make that decision? So is my goal in life to protect myself and make my life as safe and secure as possible? I would never have been in that Arab country in the first place. If that's my goal, that's easy to achieve. Pretty much anyone can do that. But if my goal is to do things beyond what I've ever even dreamed, then I have to get rid of fear. I have to get rid of fear. Fear can only work to motivate me, that's all. So I make the decision. I'm like, well, they didn't say they're going to kill me or anything. They're going to hate me. This is sort of the dream part of your mind. Maybe they're nice. Their history, maybe they've changed since yesterday. You know? So I say, okay, you know, I'll go with you. Okay, I'll go with you. So one guy gets in the back seat and slides in, one guy. And so my thing is like, how can I get a ride home and be in the front seat? You know, like I'd love to be in the front seat. So I have two options. I could yell, shotgun. But that was like, no. Don't say that. Or I could offer to drive. Okay, I'll drive. That wouldn't work. That's insulting. So the only place I have to sit is in between the two guys in the back seat, which is tactically the absolute worst place to go. But I think, well, yeah, but to kind of see where this will go, I have to get in the back seat. So I make a decision. See how these are just decisions. I'm just making decisions. That's all I'm doing. I'm not brave. I'm not brave. There's a difference between brave. Brave is just bravado. You don't have anything to do. You're storing the machine gun. That's dumb. Courage comes from way down here going, I could just run over there. And courage comes from encouragement. Like, what would a champion do? A champion's not afraid to die. Right? In that sense. And so I don't want to die. I'm just like, there's only really one way to win this thing if I'm going to really try and win it. And that's to go all in. Right? So I get in the back seat. The guy gets in next to me. Driver, the two guys these are the lead guys, get in. The one guy looks back at me. He says, where do you live? Well, I don't want to tell him where I live because I don't want him to know where I live. Because my wife is there. And so I said, well, that way, that direction. Just take me up that way and drop me off. They do a U-turn very dramatically and go down into the part of the city where the militant extremists are. They drive down and I'm like, oh boy, oh shoot. Okay, this is not a good sign. And then they drive down through that section out of the city straight out into the desert. And I'm like, oh no. Okay, so here's another little mental exercise. Hypothetical fear of the future is false. Let me say that again. Good. Hypothetical fear of the future is false. Do you understand that? Because everything you're worried about hasn't happened and probably won't. But it will keep you dead in the present tense. Right. Okay, don't play in the hypothetical future. You can do all kinds of risk assessment and all that, but you still got to risk, right? So I'm not going to try and get ahead. I'm going to try and stay in the present tense. Okay, we're now going out into the desert at night. Okay, present tense. Stay in the present tense. Open-minded. Let's stay open-minded. Pay attention to detail. And I start thinking, could I get out of this car if I have to? Yes, I could get out this. I know I can get out of the car. What will I do when I get out of the car? Stand in the middle of the desert. There's not a big advantage. And they will drive to my wife's place and do what they do. So that's not smart. That's not a smart idea yet. Present tense, detail. Okay, where are the shifting paradigms going here? Then the guy in the front seat turns back at me and he looks at me and he goes, we know who you are. We know who you work for. We know what you do. We are taking you now to put you on trial in front of a cleric, sheikh, and we're going to execute you in the desert. That's what he says. And then he says this to me. What do you think of that? What do I think? Like, you want my opinion? Are you pulling me? Like, that's what he says to me. What do you think of that? But it's an interesting question. It's a really interesting question. What do I think of that idea? What do I think of what he just said? What do we think if someone said to that? If someone says We have the power over your future. That's what he's saying to me. What if you think your boss owns your future? You are dead. Yeah. What if you think your job is it, man? If you lose that job, you're in serious trouble already. Even if you never lose that job, that fear will kill you. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, most people live in a constant state of fear. You just learn how to cope with it and manage it. That's all you're doing. And the way you know you're in it is you're not growing. Nothing's changing. You might have more money, but you're not any different. Nothing's changing. So, and what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? What can happen? What happens if I fail? It's like it's not even worth thinking about because it's in the future. Right? Driving out, he says that to me. Here's what I saw. I'm thinking, okay, what's a way to answer this dude that'll flip this situation? So I need an idea of how to answer him counter to everything that he thinks I'm going to say. Right? So I need a new idea. So I need the creative process to kick in at a heavy-duty level right now. That's what I need right now. I can tell you the cognitive way this works and all that. But so I think for a minute. I don't answer out of fear, and I say this to him. I say, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm here to be your friend. Now, here's the challenge to that. Both of those were lies. Ethically, I was going to take it. But here's what I was doing. This is funny. I'm expecting in the future to be different. I'm saying something that I want to be true in the future. I'm afraid right now, but I'm going to quickly learn not to be afraid of you. And so I'm predicting that to him. I'm making a truth proclamation for the future. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm here to be your friend. And it so caught him off guard. It was not what he expected. And it created cognitive dissonance in the whole power structure that they were trying to play on me. It cracked it. And I knew as soon as I said it that the thing in the car, I put him in a defensive position because I wasn't afraid of it. Right? And so then he's at a loss. He's like, okay, you didn't follow the script on that one. Either way, you're not afraid and you want to be my friend. So this is what he says to me. You want to be my friend? Do you? And I said, I'm becoming braver. Yes. Because I knew something had tactically changed. And I somehow felt like, I think I just gained control of this a little bit. And I'm excited about it now. Yes. He goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell us where you live. We're going to take you to your place, drop you off. Your wife's here with you in the country. We're going to send a car tomorrow night. Bring your wife, get in that car, go with them, and trust that we don't kill both of you together. You want to be my friend? Then prove it. And I was like, okay. So I said, all right, okay. So they take me, I show them the building I live in, they drop me off. I go in. They said, we'll be out in front here tomorrow night. And I said, okay. So I go in. My wife's like, how's your day? I was like, I go, we got a dinner invitation from tomorrow. Okay, now, so here's the thing. Okay, so see now, of course I can laugh about it currently in the present. But here, all I'm doing in this situation is only living it out in the present tense. If I'll only live it in the present tense, it can't overwhelm me. Do you understand? I'm just going one step at a time. Like, do another push-up. Yeah, but I want to lift 500. Do another push-up. Yeah, but I might get hurt. Do another push-up. Do it. Then when we get to that day, you'll be ready to do that day. But you're not ready. Stop thinking about it right now. Mm-hmm. That's live in the present tense. Be open. So I tell her, what happened. And and this is why we're partners, me and my wife, because she's not afraid of this stuff either. The hard thing for her, she's Jewish, and we're working with Islamic militants. It's very hard for her because, yeah. So her and I discuss it. She doesn't freak out. She stays in the present tense with me. Like, I think we need to go. I think we need to go. Why would we not go? Why would we not go? Because we're afraid and our goal in our life is to protect our own life at all costs. Well, that's not living, is it?
Yeah.
Like, we're here to be champions. So we talk about it. We think about it together. We don't get irrational into the future. We don't know what's going to happen once we get there. I survived round 1. Like, let's go see. So the next night, the car comes. Get in the car with the driver. He drives us way up into the mountains. We're holding hands, you know, and we're just silent. Like, we're just resting in the present tense. Like, we're okay, we're here, we're okay, we're not there yet, we're right here. Get all the way there, go in. And when we get into the building, into the place, it's a place, a meeting place for these bad guys. We get in there, they have their wives there. And as soon as we see the women, we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. or their whole families are going to kill us. I don't know. But, so we go into this place. Now, remember, our whole team was killed in Mosul. My whole team was killed in Mosul. I've been arrested and put on trial in Islamic court. None of this is funny to me, believe me. Here's the thing, though. I think we're going to win. Like, why would we lose? Right? So we go in there, and then it turns out to be this dinner. It was far into the night, long into the night. And the men got around me, and we got in this very intense conversation about fear. That's what we talked about. Do you know why they were asking me to explain to them about fear? Do you know why they were asking me that? Because they think I'm not afraid of them, and they tried to make me afraid, and I wouldn't be afraid. So they have a question. How can we live and not be afraid? Because if we're not afraid, we won't fight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? We won't have to, but we don't know how to not be afraid. Now, what if someone asked you that question? Teach me today how not to be afraid of the future. Teach me today how not to be afraid of thinking about all the things I did in my past. You teach me today in the community that you should be and mentored in how do I live in the present tense, keep an open mind, pay attention to discriminatory detail, be ready for emergent paradigm shifts, and crave failure because it takes me to the next level. Teach me that. That's why you got to be in a community, but not in any community, a community that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I have this picture hanging in my office. So we got into this very intense conversation because the further into the night I went, the braver I became, and the more I actually wanted to be their friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I want to end the conflict. I want to stop them. And I even got to one point where I said, hey, are any of you guys wanted by the U.S. government like for more than $1 million? Because if you are, I'm turning you in. I'm telling you right now. Because I want the cash. That's what I said to him. And they did not laugh. See, I made him afraid again. See that? I think. But that's the level of how I got to talk to. I was talking with him, and here's what I said to him. I said, let me just outline your history of extremism, and I said, here's the thing: every decision you guys have made as a militant group, you have lost. You have lost every time you've gone to fight. Now I need you to tell me the truth that you agree that you're losing this whole thing. You have to be able to tell the truth, folks. If you're not going to tell the truth to yourself, you're also never win. You got to tell the truth. And so they admitted to me, yeah, we are losing. We don't know how to win. And I said, I can tell you how to win. I can tell you right now how to win. And I told them how to do it. So this picture's in my office. As the sun's coming up there in the hills where we were, the lead guy, he goes to this fire and he cooks this lamb. And he puts it on a plate. He's talking about brotherhood. He comes and he kneels in front of me on his knees and serves me like this. I have this picture in my office of him in front of me holding the food up to me like that. And he and I went together. He came with me voluntarily into my organization and turned himself in. Yeah. And he is one of our best assets out there today, right? Vocationally, professionally, because of that instant, incident, my career went, wow. And here's the question they asked me. How did you know how to do that? How did you know how to do that? Like that. And I said, because I didn't let fear make the decision, right? I was creative. So all of that comes down to a couple of key things, and I'm done, is this. Inside of you is a conflict. Inside of all of us is conflict. That conflict is based in fear. Fear of something, if we dug down into it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I tried this and failed. I'll never be as good as these people I see. Some element of that is I'm not good enough is down in there. You were taught that you're not good enough. You were taught that by this world. And it produces fear in you. That fear is in conflict to your true self, which cannot be stopped. So you have this conflict going inside of you. If you take away the fear, which you can only do in community, you can't do it by yourself, or we would all done it. It has to be done in community by people that are not afraid. That's what it has to be. You want a mentor? The guy that trained me, he said to me once, we were out in the field, this guy's a legend. He's like Apocalypse Now dude, lives way up in with the militants, and they talk about him. That's how I knew about him. Like, have you met the American that lives way up there among the Muslims? Like, no. And it's like, is he nuts? Like, and they're like, yes. And so he's the guy that ended up training me. It took me forever to find him. But when I knew that there was a person like that, I did anything I could to get to him. And I finally got to him, and I said to him, first I made sure that he wasn't nuts, and then he's partially nuts. I said, train me, and he said, I don't have time to waste with you. He said, I'm not here to get in an argument with you about stuff. I'm here to do my job, which is among these people, and that's all I care about. I don't want to be famous. That's all I care about is to be the best that ever did this. And I don't have time for you. And he made me ask him like 7 times. And he finally did it. One day he's watching me work. He's training me. He's watching me. This is what he says to me. He goes, wait, stop. Just like my FTO in the police department. He goes, wait, stop. He goes, you don't know who you are, do you? You don't have any sense of identity, do you? And I said, I wish I could have said, yes, I do, and said what it was, but I didn't know. So I go, I lied. Yes, I do. He goes, no, you don't. And I said, how do you know? He says, because you're imitating me. He goes, I'm already here. We don't need another me. We need you in your own identity, which we can't tell you. You have to tell us what it is. Do you not know what your identity is? Because we need you in your identity unafraid. And I was like, he goes, do you know how to do that? And I was like, no. And so he sent me to remedial identity training with another lunatic American that lived out there in the jungle. That's a whole nother story. So I'm gonna stop talking. This conflict is produced in fear inside of you. It's because you're living in a false identity. I'm just going to tell you. You're getting your identity from the wrong things. You're getting your what you have, what you do, and what people think about you. That's where you're getting identity from. Those aren't real. You have an identity that's a Jiborima champion. It's unique to you, only you have it. You've got to discover it, and you've got to train that thing off the charts. And when you start doing that, opportunity will start opening up in front of you like you won't believe. But every time the opportunity opens up, because you keep moving to a different level, you're going to be afraid. You're going to be afraid. And it's going to be easy to go, you know what, I'm good right here. I'm just good right here. I don't need to go any further. And most people will stop. But I said, let's go. Let's see. Let's go. Finally, and I haven't done this finally, I just want to... 2 weeks ago, we're in a thing working with human traffickers. We're working with the CIA and the FBI. We're all working together on this. I was recruited by the CIA when I was 28 out of the police department. That's how I ended up in the Middle East. And so I'm working currently with different agents from different agencies, but they're all people that we've trained. So DEA, guys that we've trained, ATF men and women, FBI, my son's an FBI agent, CIA guy. So we got them. I contacted each one of them and said, hey, I'm working on a project. We're going to go after traffickers in a brand new way that's never been done before, but I need people that know their identity. I don't need a CIA agent. I need a CIA agent that knows their identity, and CIA agent isn't an identity. Mm-hmm. It's a vocation. So I can't just get anyone. I need the best, and the best know who they are. And so what was really cool was they came into a room in LA, all the different agencies, and they never worked together because they're competitive and they're self-protecting and self-promoting. So federal agencies never work together in any decent way. If they did, we'd have stopped crime by now. But no, listen, no federal task force has ever worked in any field, ever. But we just keep doing it. You know why? We don't know what else to do. So we just keep doing the same old thing. Anyway, they all came in a room. The guys that we trained, we planned, we came up with this strategy. It's really cool. It's really brilliant. The next group comes in, which are traumatologists and psychotherapists and all this. They come in the room, and the person moderating the room says, we need the law enforcement people or agency people to just say who you are, your resume. Every one of them stood up and said their identity as it truly is, and they wouldn't say who they worked for or what they did. And so they would stand up, like one guy's the chief of police in LA, and he stands up and he goes, I'm a bringer of peace, and sat down. And the next guy stands up, FBI guy, and he goes, I'm a protector of innocent people, and sits down. And all the psychotherapists were like, where were we? We're the Jibarim. We fight the lion men of Moab, and we prevail. Know that I know it, learn it in community, learn it from people that you respect and admire. And go get them.